I'm struggling a bit today, guys. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Julia. Today I'm just going to be doing a quick haul for August. I don't actually normally buy that many books these days just because my TBR is so long, as I'm sure every single one of you understands. However, this month I did buy a few books because the Readings Prize, I think it's called the Readings Prize for New Fiction, was announced this week. And Readings, as I've mentioned before on this channel, is an Australian independent bookstore, but a very well regarded and influential one, I would say. Influential in a really good way. They're really supportive of independent publishers, so they have a huge range of fiction from big and well-known publishers, but also smaller independent Australian publishers, and they have a huge range of books. Anyway, they announced the prize this week, so I bought the whole shortlist, which is something I normally never do. But I'm really excited because all of them are books I'd sort of thought about reading, except for one which I hadn't heard of, but I've since started that and it's awesome. So I'm going to get into that. I also bought, just before I get into the shortlist, I also bought Singing My Sister Down by Margo Lanagan. Margo Lanagan is the writer of one of my favourite books of all time, which is called Sea Hearts. In the States, I think it was released as The Brides of Roll Rock Island. Anyway, that's one of my favourite books of all time, and I saw in the library that this new collection had come out, but because I love her so much, I thought I'll go out and buy it and support her. She's an Australian writer. And this is a collection of short stories. Only 3 of them are new. I think the rest of them have either appeared in other anthologies or other older collections of hers that are a bit harder to get these days. But in any case, it's a beautiful cover. Look at this imagery. And I couldn't resist it, so I got that one. But now on to the shortlist. So with the Readings Prize for New Fiction, to be eligible, it has to be either your first or your second novel published. The first one is Pink Mountain on Locust Island, and look at the cover. I'm dying over it. It's so good. I'm just going to read out the blurb on the back because I think that will do a better job of summarising it, because I obviously don't know anything about it yet. Monk lives in Chinatown with her washed-up painter father. When Santa Coy, a possible boyfriend, potential accomplice, enters their lives, an intoxicating hunger consumes their home. So begins a heady descent into art, casino resorts, drugs, vacant swimming pools, religion, pixelated tutorial videos, and senseless violence. Already sounds right up my alley. In bursts of fizzing, staccato, and claustrophobic prose, this modern Australian take on the classic hard-boiled novel will bounce you between pulverised English, elastic Cantonese, and the new dialect of a digitised world. Sounds awesome. Can't wait to pick it up. Probably going to start reading it this week. The next one, I have already started with my very appropriately shaped wine bottle bookmark, which I'll move. It's called The Fireflies of Autumn, and Other Tales of San Giannese by Marino Giovannoni. This is really good so far. I haven't read much of it, but from what I gather, it's sort of a set of tales set in San Giannese, which is a Tuscan village or area full of a number of different little hamlets. And I started reading this because I love Tuscany. I've only been there once, but it was for a really amazing holiday. And it was at the end of my master's degree, just after I'd submitted, and I was feeling pretty traumatized. Anyway, I had a great time, so it's very special to me, that place. So I wanted to start reading this immediately, and it was really interestingly written. So it is a novel, it's fiction, but it's written as though it were a memoir. And the author has actually said in interviews that most of the stories in it, or all of the stories in it, are based on stories that his father or his grandfather or other people in the village told. So they were sort of like the local circulating stories. However, since he's put them into a book, he said he has made some of them larger than life, but he said he found that very hard to do because he wanted to stay faithful to the story. So it's written sort of as if it were a memoir, just like by this one narrator narrating these different vignettes, tales, anecdotes, but it was really nice and it was quite evocative, and so far it seems to be a lot about what it means to be a migrant. So obviously Marino Giovannoni is an Australian writer. I'm not sure if he's a migrant or maybe like a second generation Italian migrant. There's a big Italian population here in Melbourne, or Australian population I should say, that are descended from Italian migrants. So yeah, pretty excited to keep going with this one because I've been enjoying it so far. So the next one is a collection of short stories. It's called Pulse Points by Jennifer Down. Now, my cousin just read this and absolutely adored it. She said it was really moving. I read Jennifer Down's debut novel, which was called Our Magic Hour, and I enjoyed it. I thought she had a really strong voice and there were some moments of really incredible writing in it. That novel itself, actually, I remember describing it at the time as sort of like a set of snapshots about the characters, but when they accumulate on top of one another to form a whole story, like a novel. And I told that to my cousin and she said, yeah, that's kind of what this is like. Like, even though this one's not a novel, it's obviously stories about different characters, it's the same idea. They're all sort of just little snapshots and impressions. So I'm pretty excited because I really thought, I enjoyed her debut novel, and I remember thinking this is going to be a writer to watch out for. She's clearly going to go big places. So pretty pumped for that. Also, another great cover, but that's kind of a theme of this entire shortlist. So, you know, what can you do? The next one, I've been meaning to read for ages. It's Sean Prescott's The Town. It got such good reviews. It's such an amazing looking book. It's actually by the same publisher as Pink Mountain on Locust Island. So they're going to look, as you can see, they're going to look really nice together on my shelves. I'm going to read the back out again because I feel like that's more interesting than me trying to describe it. Community radio host Kira receives dozens of unmarked cassettes every week and broadcasts them to no one. Ex-musician Tom drives an impractical bus that no one ever boards. Publican Jenny runs a hotel that has no patrons, and unemployed Rick wanders the aisles of a supermarket every day in an attempt to blunt the disappointment of adulthood. In a town of innumerable petrol stations, labyrinthine cul-de-sacs, competing shopping plazas and ubiquitous drive-thrus, where are all the townsfolk likely to find the truth about their collective past, and can they do so before the town disappears? I get the impression this is kind of about like suburban life, and maybe it's a bit creepy because, I mean, look at this cover, as if this book's not going to be slightly creepy. So anyway, let you know once I get to it, hopefully soon. The next one, again, another stunning cover. Flames by Robiana. This one, as far as I understand, is set in Tasmania, which is I don't know if you're familiar with Australia, but it's the furthest southernmost state that's also an island separate from the mainland. I spent a lot of time there. I've got family there and I love it. So I'm pretty pumped to get into this one. Sounds like it's kind of about grief, love, family. That's what it says on the back anyway. And in an incredible setting. So this has also had quite good reviews, actually. I was checking a few out yesterday, and Richard Flanagan has given it a little blurb on the front, and he's obviously very well respected. So, you know, hopefully this is a good one too. The final one, the Lucky Galah. How cute is this cover? I love galahs. Galahs are a native Australian bird. There's a lot of them around where I live. They're often hanging out just on the nature strips in big groups, or in the park by the river. And I think that this book might be narrated by a galah, or at least part of it is, which sounds pretty rad. And it's set, just checking the back out here, it's set in 1969. I think it's about the moon landing because in Australia, our satellite dishes helped out with the communications for the moon landing. So yeah, I'm not really sure what else it's about except it's narrated by a galah, and I love galah, so that sounds awesome. I imagine I'll do like a readings prize wrap up part 1 and 2 as I get through the books. Yeah, I'll probably split it into 2 videos so I can review them a bit more thoroughly. Thanks for watching. Bye.